celebrating 13 years of possibility. Pilot Flying J and Halloran Hilton Hill present Anything is Possible. Today's guest, Hossein Ghorashi, Part 2.
Welcome to another edition of Anything is Possible. I'm Halloran Hilton Hill. This is actually part 2 of my conversation with Hossein Ghorashi. He is the CEO of Ooster Technologies. Thank you for agreeing to a part 2, because I wanted part 2, right? I'm enjoying talking to you so much. You were taking the time at the end of our last episode to thank a lot of people. You thanked the University of Tennessee, but you thanked in particular Hugh Neal. You went to work for his company instead of taking the fast track to a corporate job as an engineer. At the advice of your professor, he saw something in you. He thought, this guy probably needs a different type of challenge. Talk a little bit about how Hugh Neal affected Hossein Ghorashi.
In a nutshell, Hugh Neal Sr. was a great individual. He was made up of being a good friend, a father figure, a great advisor, and most of all, he fostered an environment of encouragement rather than discouragement. He told me that it's okay to fail, it's okay to take a risk, as long as you learn something from that, and the second time you can do it better.
Now, he probably had relentlessly high standards, though, because if you're making specialized instruments, things have to be exact.
Exactly. And he was, by the way, he was a great physicist, a great electrical engineer, and he loved to tinker and design instruments, and he loved to teach folks to step in his ways and do the same thing. And all around, I learned more from him than I have learned from any other technical mentor, and as well as the social mentor. What I learned from him is that as a manager, you have to create an encouraging atmosphere. If you create a situation where people are afraid of taking risk, afraid of mistakes, then they will never get to the capabilities and capacities that they have. So I would say that this is probably the most important point that I learned from him.
You know, as a CEO, you're charged with, when I used to hear, Jack, that was at GE for years, he used to talk about, I'll remember his last name in just a moment, but he used to talk about that you're really in the people business. You've got to find the right people and have Jack Welch. You got to have the right people in the right places. And as you describe what you learned from Hugh Neal Sr., I'm thinking about two things. I'm thinking about balance sheets, budgets, P&Ls, projections. That side of the numbers of the business. But then I'm thinking about also the people who are creating the things that will drive the numbers, and living in those two worlds and navigating and negotiating those. So in a world where when you sit with your board and you look at the numbers and it's like hard number crunching, and then in a world where you want to create that encouraging environment where people don't feel driven by, okay, if we don't hit this number, we're all going to be in trouble, which is not a nurturing environment. What have you learned about navigating those two worlds?
Well, as you mentioned so correctly, one world is black and white numbers. The other world which is the world of human resources, which I believe are the biggest assets of any company, specifically ours. Navigating that means you have to have feelings. I always say that I look at other managers and I learn from them what to do and what not to do. The what not to do is sometimes just as important, if not more important, of what to do, of how they are doing that. I say that, being my age, I guess I can say that I say, etc. I say that a great leader should also be a great follower. That if you sit around the table and you put ideas on the table, if somebody else's idea is better than yours, it is absolutely necessary. It is mandated that you say your idea is better, and that's how we're going to do that. As opposed to have this feeling that just because I'm the boss, my word is the final word, etc. That has never flown with me. The other thing I like to say is that I personally have never liked to hear somebody is working for somebody. I've always said that we all work for the company, but you report to me. Personally, I've never liked the word that somebody is working for me. I don't know why. Maybe it's part of the culture, maybe it's part of mentality.
Maybe it's part of your love of freedom, right? Let's take a break. When we come back, I want to, that's a great launch point to talk about freedom, because you and I share that love of freedom. My name is Halloran Hilton Hill. You're watching Anything is Possible. We'll be back in a moment.
Possibility powered by Pilot Flying J, Covenant Health, Home Federal, and the Knoxville News Sentinel. Coming up.
Everybody's opinion is respected. Everybody's opinion and ideas should be heard in a respectful manner. And then the best idea is the one that should be set to go forward.
Welcome back to Anything is Possible. We were just talking about, you said, I don't like the notion of someone working for someone. When we were off camera, we got into this conversation about freedom. Here in the United States of America, we have this wide berth of freedom that is just magnificent. I mean, the things that we can do are just incredible. Do you think that notion, I don't like the idea of somebody working for someone, is linked to that? Like, you just like for everybody to feel they have the liberty, that you're not subjugated to someone else, that you're a partner in building something?
Absolutely. You have put it very well, Larry. One of the things that the folks in this country don't realize, those who haven't traveled internationally, outside the borders, is just what you mentioned, the freedom and its value, and how it translates into fostering talents and growing opportunities for people, making things possible, making anything possible. When I hear people complain, of course, some complaints are absolutely legitimate, but there are many other complaints about the country, about the environment, about the government, etc. I feel that they are not well-founded. And I used to make a joke with my friends that if I ever become president, for those complainers, I will give them a paid week vacation somewhere else outside this country. And I believe that 95% of them, when they come back, they will have a change of opinion about the attitudes that they have about this country. So you're right. I think it stems from that, and I believe that folks should feel that there really isn't a superior and an inferior as the ranks go. Okay, somebody has a title, and at the end of the day, if there are differences of opinion, somebody has to make a decision. Those are all given. But everybody's opinion is respected. Everybody's opinion and ideas should be heard in a respectful manner. And then the best idea is the one that should be set to go forward with.
Let's talk about life and success and meaning. You have two daughters. They live here in town. One lives 11.6 miles away from you. I think that's what you said. So we know you love your family. When you talked to them about building a successful life, what were the foundational elements? What did you tell them they needed to know, and what did you tell them they needed to do, and what did you tell them they needed to be?
Well, I think that my daughters, especially my older daughter, has learned something from my life, and hopefully both from the mistakes and from the successes. And I think she has learned and she has implemented it in her life, because I look at her life and I compare it to mine when I was her age. And I see that she is better off than I am. And in a sense of a work-life balance. I have to say that in the earlier days.
Workaholic?
Yes, and sometimes that could turn out to be at the expense of the family life. So this is something that I don't recommend to anybody, I think there has to be a balance. When we talk about our company about the attributes, we talk about definitely a work and a work life and a personal life, balance, which at the end of the day will help both sides.
Right.
You can't be one side. So if I had some shortcomings in that area, I'm very glad to see that my daughter has learned from that, and maybe our discussions, maybe by actually her witnessing, she's doing better than I was doing.
Wow. So work-life balance is a real important thing, being very balanced in your approach to life.
Definitely.
What are some of the key attributes of people that are successful to you? We have work-life balance, but what are some of the other things that, if you're talking to a young Halloran, a 20-year-old Halloran, a 22-year-old Halloran, you invite me over and you say, let's sit down and let's talk. I want to give you some advice. What do you tell me?
Well, obviously, the first point is that to balance your life properly, and not only just the work life and the personal life, but also in all aspects. Respect others, be a good listener, and don't think that your idea is the best always. Don't be in a hurry. Don't dislike the red lights and the stop lights and the speed limits. Again, and respect. Have respect. When you have respect for people, they will respond to that respect. And that is the starting point of good camaraderie, good communication, good cooperation. And I think the other things, the other attributes flows in and makes for a good life and makes for a successful life. So that would be my advice to a young Hillary.
You know what? When I meet a person like you that's very accomplished, comes from a great family, has built a great family and a career, this might seem like a crazy question, but you have a great presence. You have an executive bearing. Like, if I saw you in an airport, I would say CEO just by looking at you, right?
You're kind.
There's an energy to that. I believe that. But I always wonder, guys like you, do you worry about anything? Do you have any fears? Do you have any struggles? Or is there a set point in life where you cross a certain line and cruise control, top down, it's all good?
I would love to say that I have reached that point in my life, but to be honest with you, that would be a false statement. I think in different stages of life, the concerns that one has, I'm just looking at my own life, looking in the rear view mirror, I see that the concerns vary. They don't disappear. They just change their nature. When your children are growing, you're concerned about them. You want to make sure that they go on the right path. When they get married, you want to make sure that the marriage life is okay. You have elderly parents, you worry about their lives. I have an elderly mother that I want to make sure every day that she's living, that she's taken good care of.
Is she here with you?
She's here in Knoxville. Yes, she has been here for the past 25 years as well. And then on the business side of life, you worry that, are you doing the best that you can for the company, for the responsibility of the people that you have? My greatest fear is that, unfortunately, it hasn't happened in a sense, especially the past 10, 15 years, is that something happens to the company, something happens to the folks, something happens to the direction of the company that impacts the folks. Unfortunately, every change that our company has gone through, it has become better, stronger, with the stronger partners, which at the end of the day has benefited the employees. So I feel comfortable as I get into my golden years. I feel comfortable about the folks that I leave behind, but I don't know if I ever reach that cruise control absolutely 100%, free of all the concerns. I don't know if I ever reach that or not.
So as we head toward the end of our time together, I want to talk to you about the future. And I want to talk to you about the future of possibility in the world. I'm personally concerned that in America and in the world, people are not thinking, they're not thinking in terms of possibility. They are being counseled by their desperation as opposed to their aspiration. And you have this unique perspective because you're not only looking at the United States of America, but you're looking at the global economy. You're looking at the way all of it is connected. And I want to talk to you about the future of possibility, the future of hope. Let's take a break. When we come back, I'd like to just pick your brain about that. My guest is Hossein Ghorashi. He is the CEO of Ooster Technologies. I would come to work for you. We'll be back with more in a moment.
Coming up,
I've learned that it's a good thing to have money, but if you devote your life for earning it, you have wasted your life.
This week, our Home Federal Community Spotlight is on Hope Resource Center. Did you know that Hope Resource Center provides medical services and educational resources to women and men in need of a safe place? To learn more or get involved, visit investinghope.com.
Welcome back to Anything is Possible. I'm so happy to have you here. We'll get back to this conversation about possibility in just a moment. I just wanted to talk to you about cotton for a moment. Fascinated by cotton and its impact on the world. This one plant really affects the entire world in such a profound way. But I lived in Dothan, Alabama, and in Ozark, Alabama, in the middle of the town, there is a statue to the boll weevil, because the boll weevil destroyed cotton and that kind of thing. As you guys have been working on cotton all these years, have you guys also looked at how insects affect how cotton grows? And do you guys look into that at all?
No, not directly, but of course we follow the science. In the years in the evolution of cotton, there has been genetic modifications that has helped the cotton plant to be insensitive and have higher barrier of defense toward bacteria, toward insects, and weeds as well. So the cotton today that is grown is a whole lot more, is a lot stronger, and has a higher defensive mechanism against some of the problems that existed before.
What is cotton?
Cotton is a natural product that is grown. First of all, the seed is planted,
right,
and the seed comes from the plant itself. The seed is planted, ends up into a cotton plant,
right,
with various bolls on it. From each seed, there are cotton fibers that are grown out of the seed. This plant is harvested,
right,
by mechanical harvester, or in the old days by
right,
hand, cotton
absolutely,
picking, goes to a factory which is called gin mill.
right.
And the purpose of this factory, after going through several processes, machinery processes, is to de-lint the seeds. That means separate the lints from the seed.
Right.
Then the lint is packed into the 500-pound bales. From then it's shipped to the textile mill.
And this is a cellulose material?
It is, definitely.
And it has a nattiness or nettiness, a thickness. What are the parameters that you look at?
Excellent. Each cotton fiber has obviously a certain length, and being a natural product, there is a distribution of fiber length within even a seed of cotton.
Right.
Its length properties, short content, its strength, its tensile properties,
right,
its neppability, which is a function of how mature it is, how the cellular wall has had time to develop within the fiber. The fiber is the actual fiber is grown as a hollow cylinder,
right,
and then it starts filling in from inside. And how strong it is, what the fineness of the cotton is, what is the amount of impurity, what is the color of the cotton. So all these different characteristics are measured by our instruments in about 30 seconds, which determine the value of the cotton.
That's amazing. Before you get away, I know we've talked a lot about possibility, and I know America is a great place of possibility. When you look back over your life and your accomplishments, just very quickly, tell me what you've learned about a few things. Number one, what have you learned about money? In a sentence or two.
I've learned that it's a good thing to have money, but if you devote your life for earning it, you have wasted your life.
What have you learned about family?
It is the greatest gift. A good family is one of the greatest gifts that God can give to a human being.
What have you learned about business?
Still learning.
What have you learned about love?
I don't see how a human can do without it.
What have you learned about America?
The best place to live in, bar none.
Awesome. Thank you for taking the time to be with us today. I think your life, your story, serves as a representation of possibility for you to come to the United States, for you to build a life, build a career, build a family, and then want to take what you have and leverage it to do something great with it is a really great thing. And for you to spend this time with us today, I'm now my mind is spinning about the cotton and all the cotton in the world and that kind of stuff. But it also is joyful because I had the opportunity to meet you and get to know you today. And thank you for being here today.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
Is there anybody that you would like to acknowledge or thank before we close?
Of course, my wife. I have to say that.
That's why I wanted to get that in, because she's a great agent. You're here because she recommended.
She did. Jan is my wife's name, and my daughters, of course, the family, but also my colleagues at Uster Technologies next door, without whom none of these would have been possible.
Well, I hope we see each other a lot, and thank you for being here.
Thank you for the invitation. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Anything is possible. There's proof. We'll see you next time.